Listen up, lock in, do all the fun stuff that means listen. Okay, so if you weren't aware, we have the winter recognition assembly in Flex today. So you will stay here and leave your bags here as well. I will lock the door, so don't worry about it. We're gonna start today with, I have a quick demo of the pen tool. Because remember, you guys, I had you dive into this without any training because I wanted to see how you guys felt it out before I showed you really how it works. We're kind of working backwards with this unit. So I'm going to show you the key differences between anchors and handles and how you create your curves and contours and how those things are going to interact with one another. Then you guys will have some work time for 6.1 and 6.2, which is due on Friday. So make sure you finish that up. We'll take a break at 2:10, and then the rest of the period, I'll introduce the project and you can get started on it, or you can continue finishing 6.1 and 6.2. Plenty of work time today. Please use it effectively because we are approaching our main deadline of April 15th. So anything assigned before April 15th will not be accepted after that date. So you need to get some stuff in. If you need help over break, you can message me. You have Zoom rooms. I'm happy to help, but just so y'all are aware. Okay, so you're welcome to follow along with me. You don't have to, but I'm just going to be in Illustrator demonstrating the main ideas of how the pen tool works, except my tools are way over here, so that you can approach 6.1 with a little bit more knowledge and as well as just have a useful resource for the future. So the pen tool located right here, it's also P on your keyboard, is going to quickly get you to this little fountain pen looking situation. Something that I've personally never used. I don't know why it's this icon necessarily, but it's the one that all the graphic designers have decided that it's what we're going with here. So pen tools, similar to brush tools, will have both stroke and fill. So if I pull my screen over to the gray here, when I click one time, just like on the Bezier method, it's going to plot an anchor point and then connect a, I don't know the technical term, but I call this a rubber band from that anchor point, this point A right here, back to our cursor. So you notice without any anchor point selected or any anchor point enabled, excuse me, I have the hiccups, my goodness. There's a little asterisk next to the pen tool cursor. That means you're about to start a new path. So there's all types of different varieties of pen tool cursors. Wow, the mic is really hot today. Let's turn it down a bit. So let's see if I can get an image up of just all the different varieties of pen tool cursors. These are going to be more, no, don't give me, okay. Not what I'm looking for, but I will, it'll make more sense in a second. Okay, so asterisk means you're going to start a new path. Path is the same thing that creates shapes with the shape tool. It's what brushes make more or less. Polygons are closed paths. If you think back to all the shape stuff that we did, the pen tool is the one of the most like titanic is the word I want to say, because it's throughout all different types of not only graphic design software, but most visual media software. Like After Effects has it, DaVinci Resolve has it, Blender has it, Unity has it, Unreal Engine's got it. So from game development to motion graphics to graphic design, you're all going to encounter a pen tool that behaves pretty similarly. So this is definitely something you want to get familiar with outside of this class, and you will definitely get lots more practice in Design 2 if you decide to go that way. So we've got our point A, anchor point, connected to a rubber band that can stretch infinitely to our cursor. And then the next place that we just click, not click and hold, but just click, is going to plot a point along this graph, so to speak, right? And if I click again, you're going to see because this pen path has a fill currently, it's going to go from the starting point to the last point that you plotted in the shortest distance possible. So the same way, you know, if we make it pretty close, we can create some more interesting polygons, but they're not polygons yet because we haven't sealed them shut. Or alternatively, you can turn the fill off, which is this box right here, and hit the slash. That's going to make it behave a little bit more like a pen that you might be used to, where it's just making lines, plotting points. Remember, there's a lot of math terminology in graphic design. Clicking once is going to make straight lines appear between the point that you started with and the point that you end with. So if you notice, this is an incomplete shape. This is a path still. This is not a polygon because it doesn't seal. The way that you seal a pen path is you take the end point and you connect it back to the starting point, and you'll notice it says anchor and there's a little circle underneath my cursor. When you see that circle, that means you're going to complete the path go all the way from the beginning through all these to the end, and it's going to become one singular thing that you can adjust the stroke weight of to make it a little bit thicker so you could see it on the projector. You can change the fill of this, and it would fill as you would expect because it is a complete polygon, right? You want to connect your pen paths back to themselves. But you might be wondering, if you think about the Bezier method as well, what if I don't want to do straight lines? What if I want to create something a little bit more contoured? That's where you click and hold. And clicking and holding introduces this pair of handles that are going to reflect equally. You see, the closer I get to the starting point, the closer they are to one another, vice versa. When you click and drag, this is going to create a curved anchor point or a curved path. This is the part where the part that tripped me up a lot while I learned the pen tool, is it's going to continue towards your cursor. So you see, if I'm looking at this pen path right here, you can imagine my cursor is the hand that I'm holding on the right side with. When I let go of my mouse, it's going to plot those handles, however we plot them. And the cursor, the continued pen path, is going to follow the handle that I was grabbing onto. You see now the rubber band is curving in the direction of this handle because we were holding on to the quote unquote right-hand side of the pen tool. And now we can go and create all types of different curves by clicking and dragging. You get an adjustable set of handles. You can fold it over on top of itself. It'll loop around. You can hold, spacebar to move it, right? This is how you're going to get these more organic shapes, more organic contours. You can see there's the same circle there. What you can also do is when you complete a path, you can click and drag to make it a curved path. You see how it's affecting, I only have so many hands, but if you look underneath the blue line, there's that original black line. That was where we started. But since I'm clicking and dragging, I'm able to adjust the handles and create a curved path around this part, but it's only affecting the opposite handle, like this. It's because this handle on the right, the one that I'm grabbing onto, is already set. I can't change it with the pen tool. I can change it with the direct select tool, but not the pen tool. But anyways, so you make curved paths, more interesting, contoured, more organic, less geometric sort of shapes that are going to fill about how you expect. Because we have a crossover, this is going to create like a little choke point or a little pinch point, so to speak. And we have this more organic sort of shape situation going on here. There are two major modifier keys with the pen tool. That is shift. When you hold shift, it snaps your rubber band. If you're making straight lines, snaps your rubber band. So I think it's 45-degree increments. So there's 90, 45, 180. I don't know. I'm not very good at circles. But if you hold shift the whole time, it's going to snap it like this. So if let's make a little box here. Oh, I missed. Close off my path. I have now created a square, right? Let me turn the fill off on this. You can also hold the Alt key. When you hold the Alt key, it doesn't do anything for straight lines, but it does do something for curved lines. So if I've got my two handles out here, you can hold shift as well to snap your handles to 45s like this. If I hold my Alt key, that allows me to independently move whatever handle I'm grabbing onto. And this is a way that you can create some corner points, because remember, your path is always going to follow the handle that you're grabbing onto. So if I fold my other handle way over to this side, my pen path is going to curve and follow that as best it can. So the real place you can see this most clearly is if you're trying to draw, like, those childhood, like in children's books, the representations of birds that kind of just look like M's a little bit. You can see how if I were clicking and dragging on this bottom handle, when I let go, it's going to create a more like parabolic, like a sine wave, if you're into more like electronics or music or stuff like that. But it's coming the other way. It's negative. It's not what I want. If I were to click and drag and then hold Alt and fold this individual handle, whichever handle I'm holding onto, back on top of itself, it's going to create a corner point that allows me to make that more child story bird shape that you see out in the background of illustrations and stuff like this. I hope that makes sense. I hope you guys know what I'm talking about. And these are the basics of the pen tool that you should start keeping in mind, keeping awareness of, because these are going to be the functions that you're going to be using most frequently. Okay, quick recap. rubber band, pen tool, you can connect it back to itself. Click and drag to make curved points, and the cursor is going to follow the handle. And then wherever you set the handle is where the pen path is going to continue, just like this. Make a little egg shape. Let me make this a drop, actually. Okay. So with these things in mind, now that you know how the pen tool's buttons kind of happen and you have a visual example of how they work, what I want you guys to do is keep working on assignments 6.1 and 6.2. If you've not turned in 6.1, start there. Remember, this is the Bezier method game. You can see other students' progress. Remember to include a picture when you submit your progress so I can see what stage you made it to. If you didn't, that's fine. You can put it in the replies. I've also linked this video. If what I'm explaining doesn't make sense, if you would prefer this one, you have that option. That is also in the replies for today. It's the same video. So if you want to skip the 6.1, this guy right here is a great watch. And then 6.2 is that pretest. Both of these things are due on Friday, and their deadline is after break on Monday at midnight. So at about, we'll go 2:20 for our break, actually. At about 2:20, I'll reopen the Zoom room and I'll start talking about the next stages of this assignment. But you guys have some work time for 6.1 and 2 that you should definitely take advantage of. Now that I've finished up, you can move your seat around. Just don't forget that these are due Friday. Okay, any questions? Make sense? A little bit at least? Cool. All right, get to work. Time is yours. Ready? Okay. Let's talk about 6.3. 6.3 is not due until the Wednesday the 17th. So don't freak out about trying to finish it by Friday. If you go to modules, you should be able to, the Zoom room is probably going to take a sec to connect. But project 6.3, I need to link the helpful videos here in a second. You are creating, which we're going to go over on Thursday and Friday, some things with texture and value. You guys are going to use the pen tool, some gradients, some textures, some filters, some cool stuff to create a scene, an environment of some kind that has a couple different aspects to it. And these are typically associated with what you might call like corporate design, but does not have to be all that way. So if you go to Unit 6, which has an updated thread now, or an updated information, visual texture and value, we're creating something similar to this. So let me open this image in a new tab. Oh, okay. This is taking advantage of the elements of design, value, texture, and the pen tool. Pen tool is not really an element of design, but it is a tool that we'll use to create a scene sort of like this, sort of similar to this. But it's your own inspiration. So there's a couple different links here about, or your own execution, I mean, where you deliver the thing, right? There's a couple different links here on flat design and semi-flat design, which is what this style is called because it uses the texture and the value. If you're in a graphic or another arts class, you know about value. You've heard of value. I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Thank you. Value is the amount of lightness or darkness that you add to a scene to create this depth and these clarities like this. And this is what we're going to be building. It doesn't have to be this detailed. This took a lot longer than we have, but something similar to this. So to start looking at the assignment, I've also added 2 extra pages that are helpful to this assignment. So we have general guidelines. This is what we're going to talk about Thursday and Friday, getting into some of the texture and gradient fills, because all of these greens are the same fill. They just have different filters applied to them. An example of how you should be using the pen tool. I'll go into more detail with that on Thursdays and Fridays as well. Less anchor points is better. You can see the difference in the quality between these lines. And then there's also a couple of helpful videos, as well as Mr. Hendricks's tutorial that we used for, or he used for his class, accessible to y'all. So you have lots of information to reference, lots of info to work with in creating your 6.3 design environment. So how you get started is by downloading this flat design template, similarly to 5.2, similarly to some of the other like pre-made worksheets, pre-made type of stuff that we've done in class before. It's really thinking about it right now. while it thinks about it, your design should include, I'll talk about this while it downloads, a foreground and a background. You can also include a midground, which we'll get into here in a second. But in the foreground, you should have a single human or animal main subject, and then some type of plant or foliage. And then the background needs at least 2 overlapping levels. So there's a couple different overall requirements that your design should include, some centralized alignment things. There it goes, it finished. Okay, so if I go back to Illustrator, I closed it like a fool. Okay, in Illustrator, you're gonna go open, and then mine goes to my downloads. You can put it wherever, you need to put it. Open up this template. You can click ignore on this because it was not a placed image. And you can see a lot of Mr. Hendrix's examples that he's put into this flat design sort of archetype, sort of architecture. We're going to be creating something similar to this. You're welcome to find and add your own inspirations. But this right here is your workspace artboard. It's 1920 by 1080, so it's going to look real nice if we were to print it off or set it as a background or something like that for your computer. And here's the design requirements for this assignment. Same as copied from Canvas, right? You need a human or an animal main subject. If we look over at some of these, we got a human in the center with some foliage, some animals, or maybe statues. I'm not sure exactly what the living status on this guy is. Human main focus, right? We're going to be creating something similar to this using pen tool, texture, and value. So a couple key terms, that I want you guys to be aware of here is the idea of foreground, middle ground, and background. You've heard of background, maybe even heard of foreground and midground, but they're all very similar concepts of the same idea. Typically, artistic images are divided into 3 sections, the 3 that I mentioned, with the foreground being the closest. You can just make a little box around this here. Okay, hold on, I gotta pull some levers. We'll make this foreground blue. I just need to change the opacity, which is right here. All right. Set this to like 40%. Okay, so there's our foreground. That's going to be our closest to our viewer. The closest section to our viewer, right here. And this is what's going to hold the most detail, hold the most visual interest, because it's the first thing that your viewer is going to see. The midground, as I'm sure you could guess, is the middle. It's the in-between portion. Oops, that's not what I want, actually. In-between portion of the, sorry, I can't think. RGB. Here we go, make this green, turn the opacity down on that guy a little bit. Midground is gonna be where there's less detail, but still some visual interest, still some context, still some information that you can put into your scene. But it's typically the bridge between the foreground and the background, which is where most of your detail is going to live. So if we do one of these with our remaining space here, make it not green, make it a nice red for RGB. Turn the opacity down. The background is going to be furthest from the viewer, obviously, and it's still going to contain an amount of detail, but not quite on the level of the foreground. So I hope that you can see this clearly on the Zoom room. You're going to be creating something that needs at least a foreground and a background. The midground is optional, but it is a welcome addition to this project. And it's got to have a human or an animal main subject surrounded by some type of foliage or plants or something of the like. So what you can be doing today is gathering some inspiration, whether that's real pictures like these ones, you can identify the foreground, midground, and background. Or if you're looking around for different types of flat designs, flat landscapes, graphic design landscapes, there's lots of different search terms that you can add for these so that you can start gathering some inspiration and getting your assignment ready for Thursday and Friday. The last thing that you need to do, because I've been kind of talking pretty hypothetically at this point, the last thing that you need to do is save this to your OneDrive. So File, Save As, make sure that that goes in your OneDrive, your graphic design folder, 6 period. Might even create a new folder just for this project, so PROJ 6.3. Double click on that, and then you'll do the Canvas naming scheme of first initial, last name, period number, followed by, you can do the assignment number of 6.3, or if you wanted to go more specific, you can go PROJ 6.3. And then this is version 1 because we just started. Click save on that. Click save PDF on that. And now it's ready to go when you guys return on Thursday, Friday, or if you want to touch it up over the break. The way I'm looking at this assignment is I'll give you a lot of information and resources during this week, and then we can finish it next week, or you can work on it over break, which is not required. Remember, absolutely not required. But we'll pick it up right when you get back that Monday, talking in more detail about your flat design sort of situation. So a good use of the rest of your time today, saving the file, gathering some inspiration. You could even start designing if you would like, following Mr. Hendricks's videos. But remember that we have some texture and gradient and value stuff to add Thursday and Friday, which will also be accessible later on. Does that make sense? Any questions, comments, concerns, feelings, thoughts, opinions, qualms? Cool. All right. So I'll process this Zoom room real quick so you can access these vocab and some of the other things that I need you to be working on today later on. But the rest of this period is yours to finish up 6.1, 6.2, or get started on 6.3. And that's our plan for the last 25 minutes. Sound good? Okay. Thank you guys for listening. The rest of the time is yours.